Hi, I'm Dr. Gwyn Erwin, and welcome back to my channel, Healing for Your Life. Today we're going to do the first of two videos that relate to one another specifically, and that is organizing for the creative process, and this will be part one. Now, the creative process, which we have a video on already, is a very precious space, both internally and externally. Today's video is going to focus on mainly, but not exclusively, on our internal space for creativity. So we're going to begin with a question. How does your mind work? Now, this may be something you've thought about a lot, or it might be something that's never occurred to you at all. Many years ago now, probably 25 or more, I kind of went on a treasure hunt of trying to understand how people's minds work. I was becoming a psychoanalyst. I was very interested in how my mind worked. And I don't mean in a colloquial sense of, oh boy, sometimes I get really upset, or sometimes I'm really sad, or sometimes I really feel joyous. But really, how does my mind work compared to how other people's minds work? And so I started asking good friends and family members, how do you think your mind works? And at first they'd look at me kind of puzzled and I don't know. I'd say, well, think about it. And then sometimes I by then I'd figured out how my mind worked. And so I'd tell them that, and then pretty soon that would help them kind of focus in on how their minds work. So what I figured out about my mind is that it works mainly in pictures, vivid pictures or little bits of videos. Now it can have words in it, even printed words, like on a screen. But I'll get a thought over here, and then I'll have an image over here. Then I'll have an image up there, or over there, and over there. And I get a lot of images about something I'm interested in, or a specific topic, or something I want to write about or think about. And then as I do that, and I get these kind of little bubbles of visions, they start coming together almost like a mind map in reverse. I don't know if you know about mind maps. We'll do a video on that. But instead of starting at the core and going out, you're going out, coming in. And then these pieces would come together, and suddenly I'd see a whole design of something. And this is why I have a particular ability to design books. I can design pretty much any book within about 20 to 30 minutes. And I don't know why, I also can read upside down, so I don't have an explanation for that. But that's how my mind works. And so I learned to give myself over to that process, because our brain produces about 50,000 images a day, a lot of them very random, seemingly disconnected. But I learned how to make use of those in a very purposeful way. Now, a very close friend of mine at the time, we were having this conversation, and I said, how does your mind work? And after I explained what I was talking about, she said, well, that's really interesting. She said, you know, I don't do anything spontaneously. I don't speak spontaneously. She said, my mind has kind of a visual ticker tape in it, almost like the stock exchange. And I see the words coming across, and I edit them, and then when I like them, I speak them out loud, which is why she always sounded so articulate. She would never talk off the cuff, so to speak. And that's how her mind worked. I had another friend whose mind worked by concepts. She would have to really get absorbed in a concept and then see what flowered out of that concept. Some people's minds think much more mathematically. Others think there's thousands of ways that people's minds work, as many as there are people probably, even though we have some commonality. So spend some time thinking about how your mind works best, because I want you to be able to kind of orchestrate your creative space and your life, utilizing that in the most productive way possible. Now, the next thing I want you to think about is, how does your nervous system work? What? I don't know. Well, I'm calm most of the time. Or, well, I respond a lot to a lot of different things. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the nervous system, and this chart will be available on the PDF downloadables on my website, so you can go there and get it. But this is a chart that at the beginning was formulated by Dr. Connie Lillis, who gave me permission to expand it many years ago, and I've been using it ever since. So don't worry about being able to see it right now, because you will be able to download it. But basically, this is a chart of the autonomic nervous system and how we respond to stimuli. The reddish part of the bell curve represents our sympathetic nervous system, which is the part of our nervous system that excites or arouses or elevates. The left side, the blue part of the arc, is our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of our nervous system that inhibits or calms or brings down. And this very small little yellow section right in here represents an open processing state, which is the most relational state we can be in. It's not too aroused, it's not too inhibited. It's open and receptive, but thoughtful. So I'm going to post this, and you can refer back to it watching the video after you've downloaded it. What we're looking at is our amygdala, which is part of our limbic system. I don't want to drown you in jargon, but our amygdala is in the center of our brain, along with the hippocampus and the thalamus. That forms part of the limbic system. It's right in the middle of our brain. The amygdala scans for threat, and it tells our body what to do in facing it. So it arouses us, and with it, up goes our heart rate, our respiratory, our temperature, all of those things, but our digestion decreases. Our parasympathetic nervous system is ruled much more by the hippocampus, which is what tells us, oh, the danger is over, we can calm down now. So they act sort of like, as Dr. Lillis said, an accelerator and a brake. The sympathetic, or the amygdala, is the accelerator, and the hippocampus is the braking system. Now, people with a lot of trauma have actually a smaller hippocampus that does not work as effectively. And so people who've been very traumatized or have a panic disorder or a fear disorder or something like that have kind of a steady hum of hypervigilance that never quite goes away. And they have a harder time really soothing. Now, why is this important in terms of organizing your creative process? Because you want to be able to regulate your nervous system. And even though it's autonomic, which means basically it's going to run on its own drives, there are things you can do to regulate it. So that if you get too stimulated, too aroused, intellectually, psychologically, emotionally, you are able to calm down. And if you get too languid, too calmed down, you can enliven yourself. How do you do that? You do that using sensory modalities: sight, touch, taste, smell, vestibular balance, and what you see. Oh, I said sight, and hearing. So any of those sensory modalities can be used to enliven you and calm you. I'm going to put another chart on the downloadables that is kind of a checklist for you. You can see, what can I make use of that will enliven me or soothe me. Now, for instance, for me, if I need a refresher from the day, the best thing in the world I can do is sit outside at twilight and feel a very cool breeze across my face. And in about 10 minutes, I feel completely regenerated. Other people love the sound of water, which I also happen to love. Other people like charms. Other people like really, intense music. Other people want Baroque. There's so many different sensory modalities that you can use, or aspects within sensory modalities that you can use to regulate yourself. And this is important when you are designing your creative space. And when you're achieving an inner state that you want to be in, as well as establishing your creative environment. It helps you know what you need. But an extra emphasis that I want to make is that creative people, by and large, are much better off being able to see what they need. Because out of sight, out of mind, they are so stimulated visually usually that if they can't see it, it really doesn't have a lot of juice for them. So if you use filing, if you have your supplies handy, if you want to see where your projects are, find systems that are visible, that make them visible. And we're going to be talking more about this in part 2. Okay, so how do we create this creative space for ourselves to go into? First of all, how do we create it? Then we're going to talk about how to organize it. So first, you want to create your internal space as much as you can. And I'm going to refer you to the booklet I showed you in at the end of the Writing for Your Life video, or the creative space process video that is on the creative process, because I go into what states are. But I'm also going to put a downloadable on the website so that you can download that material and have it available for you. You want to be able to regulate your own internal thermostat, your own internal states, so that you can enter a creative space as well as make full use of it and exit it. We learned about this in the first video here in this playlist on the creative process. The next thing, of course, is creating your external space. And all I'm going to say about that for the moment is that it needs to be customized for you. It needs to be the best possible fit for your sensibilities and your sensory modalities. As an example, if you need a clear workspace with a large table with nothing on it, then that's what you need. If you need a table with lots of cubby holes so that you can organize your projects, then that's what you get. So without customizing your creative space, large or small, you're going to have a very tough time utilizing your own creative process, because you've got to have an environment that supports your creativity. The third thing you need are your tools of the trade. And if you're a gardener, that's your, various digging implements. It's your mulch, it's your potting soil, it's your pots, it's your containers, it's your seeds, it's the space you need for gardening. If you're a painter, it's your mediums, your canvases. If you're a writer, it's your pens, papers, computer, clipboards, whatever. Every different kind of creative endeavor has its own tools of the trade. I happen to love pens and paper, and I have a lot of them. And to me, I don't travel. I'm not a big shopper, but I love my pens and paper, and I'm going to use them because they bring me pleasure. They help organize me, and they are just indispensable for my own creative process. Make sure that you have them always at hand. You don't want to end up, unless you can't do it otherwise, with a creative space that you have to pack, where you have to pack everything up and put it away and then get it out again. So even if you're using a card table, have the few essentials that you need at the ready. If you turn a closet into your little creative space and take the door off and build lots of shelves with a desk area and a chair in it, have the things you need at hand. If you're fortunate enough to have a whole room, design that office so that everything you have is at hand. You are not ever going to be in a space where you are working on a creative project and suddenly you've run out of toner, or you've run out of a basic paint that you need, or your brush breaks or the bristles come out. You want your tools in very good condition, in the best working condition they can be in, and at hand. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about today is your relationships with the people in your life and your creativity. Now, this can be a spouse, it can be a best friend, it can be a colleague, it could be an adult child, or if you're helping a young child, it can be a relative, it can be there isn't a correct relationship. It could be a mentor, it could be a teacher. But there are 6 things that need to be there. One of them is elective, but the others are indispensable. For your creativity to thrive with that person and involving them, so if they're a reader for you, with your writing, if they help you build raised beds so that you can plant your vegetables or your herbs for that season, if they are going to help you set up an art show, whatever that relationship is, in order for it to be creative, it needs to be non-competitive. You can't be in a relationship creatively with someone you're competing with. It's just not going to work. You're going to run into problems, and you're either going to have to give up the relationship if you can't work it out, or it's going to compromise your creativity. So it needs to be non-competitive. It also has to be absent of envy. Envy is one of the most painful experiences for somebody to feel about another person. And the solution to it psychologically for that person who feels envious is to spoil the thing they envy so they don't have to envy it anymore. And that's their solution. Envy is different than jealousy. Jealousy is about a person. Envy is about what somebody does or has. And so in a creative relationship, envy has no place, because each of us has our own creative field, our own creative essence, and that needs to be fully supported, or do not expose your creativity to that person. The third is that they must be trustworthy. They must hold your confidentiality. They must hold the knowledge of your project without discussing it until you are ready to discuss it. I have had books stolen from me. I've had ideas stolen from me. I've had designs stolen from me. And I have learned how to be protective, and that's another video. So make sure that person is trustworthy and will hold the confidence of your project. Because if you talk about your project to a lot of people, you're going to drain the energy out of it. But if you need one person to give you feedback, make sure that person is not competitive with you, is not envious, you're not envious of them or competitive with them, and they are trustworthy. Now, the elective quality here is that they have a certain knowledge and expertise. That doesn't have to be true in every creative relationship, but some creative relationships may include the other person's knowledge and expertise and what they are bringing to your creative project. Of course, you will always acknowledge them, you will always cite them, and you will make sure that they do the same for you. The next is that they hold your best interests in mind. They really want the best for you. They want to support you. They enjoy supporting you. It feels like a gift to them as well as to you. And their honesty is not of a critical nature. It is of a discerning nature. So that you may look to them to say what works about this and why, and what doesn't work and why. But they are always responding to you in terms of your growth and your expansion and your best interest. And last but not least is that there is reciprocity of both creativity and the creative space. So that as they give to you, you give to them. That's a two-directional experience. It may be that you pay somebody who helps you. I pay my producer, but she also gives me so much in so many other ways, and I give to her. It is, besides paying her, it's a very reciprocal relationship, and it matches all 6 of these qualities. Her name is Jen Shiki. She goes by Jen Shakti professionally, and you can see her website information at the end of this video. So that's what we're going to cover for today. And I want to let you know that I have a booklet on organizing for the creative life. We've only covered about half of it so far today, not even that, maybe a third of it, but it is for sale on my website. And in the next video, we'll finish up all the rest of this material. And I appreciate you being with me today. I enjoy your company, and I look forward to our return. Bye for now. Thanks.